Welcome to Brightly, You Radiant Being, the show that wildly recognizes, encourages, and invests in the radiance we all carry so you can shine your brightest. Each episode, we share soul-driven advice and topics to help you live more brightly in mind, body, and spirit. Through sharing our experiences, friendship, and passions, we hope to impact you to step more brightly into yourself, inch by inch.
Hey there, Tracy.
Hey, Amy, it's so good to see you.
It is good to see you. Here, side note, we actually saw each other. When did we see each other? Was it just Saturday?
It was about a week ago, yeah.
Yeah. And it was lovely to see each other in real life.
Well, and so we talked a lot about the show. We talked a lot about life. We kind of caught up. But as we, talked about being the leader of our own life and kind of doing assessments and things like that, as with everything, it kind of made me turn inward. And I have a question I've been meaning to ask you, and it's just never come up. Is it okay if I ask something on the show?
Yes.
We can edit it out if you don't like it.
Okay.
So how much of your life would you say is dedicated to thinking about Will Smith?
Probably too much, because honestly, there's so many times I'm like, okay, I think about Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I think of Independence Day and how he was in Independence Day. I know it kind of got a bad rap, but I loved the Netflix movie Bright, which honestly, I was like, if we name our podcast Bright, that's the same name as the Will Smith movie. I just so probably not an enormous amount, but probably more than people would think. What about you?
If people did that inward self-assessment like I did, it's probably more than they think.
Yeah.
Will Smith is a little ubiquitous in pop culture, but for me, there's a quote of his that has haunted me. And it's something I've brought up on the show before, but I've wanted to do a deeper dive on it for a bit. To kind of a self-motivation, therapeutic thing, and then also to see what you and other people think about it. But so the quote is, so if you stay ready, you ain't gotta get ready. And that is how I run my life. So I first heard it, I believe he was either auditioning for or filming Ali, the boxing movie where he played the boxer. Yes. And so he had to get in tremendous shape for that. And much like it is with celebrities, male and female, when you get in shape for a role, it's all the media wants to talk to you about when you do your press. And he just kind of looked at the guy and he's like, look, if I stay ready, I don't have to get ready. And that blew my teenage mind. What a concept of not just constantly floundering in panic, trying to prepare for the thing you want in life when it comes your way, right? Like, yes. Oh my God, you mean I could have prepared in advance and just been ready when the universe brought it to me?
Yeah.
But so what does that quote make you feel? What do you think of it?
Yeah, there's a couple different things that it makes me feel. It sort of does. I have a little bit of a knee-jerk reaction of like, oh shit, like I'm not ready, but I feel I'm readier than I have been in my past Amy life. But it also reminds me that Rick always says, sure, it's great to be spontaneous, but you need to be ready for it. And so when he first told that to me, I was like, that's not spontaneity. And he said, I'm not saying being ready for the actual thing. I'm saying make sure all your other ducks are in a row. So then when somebody says, hey, do you want to drive up to the lake with me today? You can say, sure, because groceries are bought, house is clean, laundry's done, bills are paid, that kind of thing.
So Rick doesn't think of Will Smith, he embodies Will Smith.
Well, yes, and I'm going to remind him of that. If he could perhaps embody him in a different way, I don't know. Just kidding, Rick.
Yeah, start that rap career, Rick. So I love that you said past Amy, right? Like, because earlier this week I was doing something and I wasn't being compassionate with myself. I was kind of being snarky and trying to motivate myself.
Yeah.
And I was just like trying to get myself to do something, and just in my brain, I have self narration all the time.
Yes. And we enjoy it, Tracy.
Thank you. Yeah, some of it I share, not all of it, but it was just, will this help future Tracy? And inner Tracy was like a resounding no. And it caught me off guard because it was a self-care activity, like a true self-care, not I'm gonna sit and watch Netflix for 9 hours self-care. And so it made me kind of reflect on what I've talked about this before. Are my goals still my goals, right? Like, am I doing this for the right reasons? And in that moment, I had to stop and be like, well, what does future Tracy need right now? Like, how can I prepare and be ready for future Tracy if this isn't it? But it's also a useful tool as well when you're doing stuff you shouldn't do, right?
Right.
And you're like, will this help future me? Not necessarily.
I want to know, did any part of you, any past, present, or future you answer you when you said, well, what do I need? What does future Tracy need?
Honestly, rest. And I've been talking about that a lot lately, like the difference between calling myself lazy and then recognizing we're still in the hibernation period where we live. Yeah. It's still cold. I'm still in a transition from, last year, and the various health activities and things. And so it was just kind of like, oh, I do actually just kind of need or want to sit back and watch a show or a movie. But what that truly meant was put your phone away, put your notebook down, don't do 20 things while you have, like, actually pick a movie. You'll sit down, turn the lights down, and just watch the movie. So to make sure I did that, I went to the theater. And that was super smart, because then you took everything out of the equation. You took all those other things just out of the equation. I love that. Movies used to be a huge hobby of mine. The pandemic kind of took that away because it went from something to look forward to all I had, right? To kind of stay occupied and busy and entertained from like an exterior source. And so I kind of, stopped watching it, or because I just started multitasking or, working or doing school with movies on and stuff, I kind of got away from it. And then with theaters being reopened, it was so great because not only did I relax and enjoy myself, I went to 3 movies that week. I ended up seeing 1 with a friend and 2 by myself. One that's been out for ages that I've been meaning to, but just never prioritizing. And I have to say, like, I went into this week feeling the most refreshed I have in a long time. And I think it's because I actually relaxed, right? Like most people would be like, God, 3 movies in a week. And I was like, it's what future Tracy wanted.
I love it.
So have you ever asked yourself, will this help future me?
I don't know if I never used to ask things like that. Since I met you, now I ask myself that. But I've noticed lately becoming even more intentional with that. Like, will this help future me? I've also heard other people say this too. I think people who listen to the podcast, and it just makes me so happy. But I feel still that I could get even more intentional with that question, like to start my day with that, even like, what is the best thing I could do today to help future Amy?
Well, and especially too, if you're having a hard time getting out of bed, because I think future you just starts with tomorrow you. I have that alliteration thing, so I can say,
oh my gosh, you're so right. You're not thinking about 15 minutes from now, you. You who's late for work, you.
Yes. And so I'd say if you're new to this or feeling overwhelmed, or if you're just struggling with day-to-day routines, just start with what will help tomorrow me. And typically for me, it's do the dishes now, wake up to an empty sink, or it's just going to keep getting, piling higher and higher, prep the meal, make sure your laundry's clean, those little things that you have to do either way. Why add them to tomorrow you's energy chore list, right? Your depleters. But if you're past that point, and something I kind of avoid because I don't really like to be tied down too much by future me, more than a year in advance, it is kind of a nice way to think of future goals instead of what is 10 years from, what are my goals in 10 years? It's what does future Tracy look like in 10 years? What does future Tracy need to look like that and have that life and have that
Love
lifestyle?
that. Yeah.
So, and sometimes too, it's not even, what does future you need? Sometimes it's what does future you want? So sometimes I get frustrated at choices past Tracy made, and I've grown enough to give her grace, and she did what she could in the moment. But I also know now I have that reflection piece of I'm frustrated now I didn't do that. And so let's help future Tracy out by doing something I can do in this moment.
Okay, I like that. You acknowledge that you're frustrated, but you're also not saying, oh, you were such an idiot, past Tracy. You're just like frustrated, present Tracy's frustrated. I don't want future Tracy to be frustrated as well. I really like that thinking.
So, it comes down to that basic immediate satisfaction versus longer term gains. Which, that's kind of basic goal setting, right? Like sometimes it does, have to stink in the moment to get what you really want. But
Yeah.
when it comes to if staying ready, first you got to get ready, right? Like that's that hump. If you're not there already, you got to get ready. So
we always say in the Faustine household, I'm fixing to get ready.
I'm fixing. That sounds like you're gonna get a fight. I'm fixing to get ready.
I'm fixing to get ready. It just means you're not ready and you're not even getting ready. You're just thinking about getting ready.
You're in the precognitive stage. So what does readiness mean to you then?
Oh boy. Readiness means that I can move forward easily in any direction that I choose. So I feel like readiness would be if I decide that I want to go to drive up to the lake, I could do that. If I decide I want to sit down and write, I could do that. If I decide I want to just go take an hour walk, I can do that. So I feel like readiness creates options and opportunities.
I love it because when you first started talking, I was like, oh, this sounds like readiness is about movement, about ease and ability to move. And it was a little bit, but the more you talk, the more I was reminded of my favorite stand-up philosopher, Alan Watts. So about, today we have stand-up comedians. In the 60s, they had stand-up philosophers. So Alan Watts is one of my favorites. He's a lot of East meets West for the hippies. But one of his talks or his lectures, they've recorded them and they sell them as audiobooks, or you can find them on YouTube if you're interested. But in one of them, he talks about discipline is freedom. And so the more you were talking, it sounded like if you're ready, you are free, that you have that choice.
Yes, I just didn't have it succinctly put in those beautiful words. And I think that past me, 10 years ago, if somebody had said discipline is freedom, I would have laughed in their face.
Well, he says it's a dirty word. He says, back then and now people don't like it. People fight it. People view it differently because I think sometimes discipline is viewed as punishment instead of freedom.
Right. And we're not talking about that. No. We're talking about.
So he called it a push away word, and he likes to substitute the word discipline with skill. And he says there is no pleasure in the world without skill.
Ooh, that is super interesting.
And I think that kind of encapsulates a lot of what you were just talking about for what readiness means to you, is that if you're willing to do the work up front, you have the freedom to do the work you want to do later. Yeah. And both the work you want to do later and the work you have to do up front, those are all skills, right? It was a skill set to make those choices you wanted to take in skills.
So that also reminds me of something, and I didn't come up with this. I read it somewhere. Oh, I can't remember where. But the statement, I believe, was if you do the work now, then basically you don't have to do it later. So it was like, yes, right now, preparing for something might feel like a lot of work, but then the work is done. And that, I think, was more like if you're, like creating like a class or a workshop or something like that, that the upfront work is going to be a lot, but then the payoff, or once you're done with that, then you've got this finished product and then you don't have to worry about it anymore. But I like what you said, because that's more like, that feels more relatable. Like we all could see ourselves doing something like that.
Yeah, because for me, a little bit with the discipline and the do the work now to have freedom later, that's great. But it's still, to me, I'm in this circle of work at times. And when you're already feeling overwhelmed and tired, doing work now so that future you can choose to work later, even if it's going to the cabin, that's a chore, right? And until you get there, right? So packing up, driving there, unpacking, all that, like it's added work, but you get a big reward out of it, right?
Yeah.
But so for me, readiness is about a lack of anxiety when an opportunity comes.
Yeah. I love that. That is absolutely it. No one, you don't worry. You're not freaked out. Yes, I love that.
So as someone who intentionally procrastinates and just accidentally procrastinates, this readiness concept is really hard for me because I'm really good in the moment at making things happen and when stuff comes up and being ready for it, but it's very stressful. And there's some things in life you just can't do that for. For instance, if I wanted to start dancing tomorrow and take a dance class, I have some pre-work to do to be in enough shape to take a dance class or to be comfortable in that dance class in my body, right? To fully participate. So there's, that whole being ready piece gives you options for what you want to do later, where you don't have to think of your deficits while you're doing stuff.
So you don't have to think of your deficits. I really like that. I do want to touch on something else though. When you said something about you're really good at getting things done in the moment. And I feel like we have a similarity there, that whether it's because of, I think for me, it was probably because of like just childhood and certain things that happened in my childhood that then I became very adept at like just pivoting in the moment or being able to get something done in the moment, because there wasn't a lot of forethought or readiness or preparing for things. And so I became very adept. I developed a skill like you did at being able to get things done in the moment, but it's more a trauma response.
I was just going to say, some of those things, are they skills? Are they natural talents? Or is it just what you feel comfortable in because the other stuff you don't know as well? For me, when it comes to studying, I was always so good at the majority of my school subjects that I was never taught how to study. It was either assumed I was doing it right or it wasn't a concern. So by the time I got to higher education and certain professors that had that old school 1960s style, I only take 5 kids around a round table and we deep dive into these things, I could not do that. And not because my brain wasn't ready for it, but it was so absolutely anxiety inducing to not know that I would be able to do it on the spot, right? See the amount of work and readiness and preparation that it takes to be that type of good student versus the class where you show up in a class of 100 and you just, you ruin the curve because you crammed the night before, right? Like there's one, you're really being seen, and the other one, you can show up as you want. And so for me, I've also always been rewarded with, that procrastination push. Usually the first draft is the best draft then, right? Whereas the times when I've had instructors that have made you make an outline and make you write slowly, or when you and I talk about writing books or things like that, it's so uncomfortable. It's so boring because all I've ever known is let's write a 12-page research paper the day it's due, including doing the research, which I know doesn't sound the best, but when it's never failed you, that's my being ready, right? Is that I can do that in the moment. But I'd like to get better at that preparation piece because I do lose that freedom and I do have that anxiety of, well, what if I could have done better? What if I could have done more? What if I could have learned something completely different had I had that time to pivot?
Yeah. So do you feel like you want to like maybe just focus on one area of your life where you want to be ready? Or are you thinking across the board, you'd like to be a little more ready?
Oh, as with all things, I want it in all
Yeah,
areas.
10 out of
10,
10, Amy.
10, level 10 life, 10 goals each, all at the 10. Let's do this. No, I definitely, I think there's another podcast I follow called The Art of Manliness, and he follows the Teddy Roosevelt A Strenuous Life philosophy.
Yes.
And he even leads like a course or like an immersive, 6-week course on it that you can sign up for. And what attracts me to that concept is they essentially do like 6-week sprints. So you pick a skill, you pick a topic, you pick something you want to get really good at, you want to learn a lot about, you want to dive deeper into, and that is your focus for 6 weeks outside of your core, like, this is how I live my life routine things.
Wow.
Yeah. And so that's both, part of me is like, oh my gosh, that sounds great. And 6 weeks sounds doable, but then I can't pick what, right? Like,
See,
I have 10 things I want to do in the 6 weeks.
Me? Yeah. Right now it's like, learn French again, do this, learn tarot, learn astrology. Actually, just so many things.
And so it's one of those things where we're all going to have different challenges when it comes to this, either like you said, based on our trauma response, based on where we feel comfortable, our experience, where we've had rewards in the past, right? Like a huge reward for me in my 20s was what eased my anxiety the most. And it was avoiding the homework assignment or the work thing or the job application until the last moment and then stress completing it. And when I look back, it's like, wow, had you had the capability to do it in 8 hours either way, why didn't you free up that week, right? Like, why didn't you do it the Sunday before instead of the Sunday it was due?
Tracy, I did the same things. And I think for me, I think for me, what was always in the back of my mind was magical thinking, right? Like something will happen.
I'm just going to wake up and realize I disassociated and it's done and I didn't have to put in the effort. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So for me, where I'm consistently not ready, and I feel like it consistently impacts other areas, is my physicality. That I've had a lot of goals for whether it's like a sport or an exercise or a hobby that I've wanted to do. And I've just never put enough time into it, or I've done it and I've been like, oh man, I really wanted to do mountain biking, but gosh, my knee. And then I focus on, trying to sort out my knee. And then by the time I do that, then I'm over mountain biking. I want to try something else. And it's like, oh man, I just don't have the flexibility for this. I have to do yoga. And so I never like complete the thing I start with because my body was never ready to do it in the first place.
Yeah. And it also sounds like if you give a mouse a cookie, it just kind of snowballs into all these other things. And the first actual thing never actually happens.
And it's still kind of hanging there. So what changed?
But also though, wait a minute. I just want to make sure that I also just want to acknowledge the fact that you have had some serious physical things.
Yes. And so that's just it. Like, it's also, it's not because I don't try. Like I have had just things come up in the past couple of years, aging, yay. But also not being ready.
Really?
Well, so for me, like with this, like I started with, I guess I have kind of been doing it. I've been doing Pilates 6 days a week for the past almost 3 weeks. And it's a Pilates reformer. And when I started at first, it was like, I signed up for unlimited. So I have to come 7 days a week. Right. Like, I got hard on myself the days I didn't, or when I was sore and I didn't give my all, or when different injuries and things popped up. So I gave myself grace. And for 2 months, it was just, we've always wanted to do this and we can afford it. So let's have fun with it. Let's move our body. Let's see where we're at. And then after that 2-month period, I just got to a point where it doesn't feel like work anymore. Not that it's not a workout, but like before I was so aware of where I was tight, where I was out of shape, what hurt, what my injuries were. And now I'm at a point where I get the workout out of it that based on the effort I put into it. And so it was like, all right, I stayed dedicated to it long enough that I was able to get past the not being ready for it when I signed up. And it's now made me ready for other things.
And it sounds like it's more of a flow for you now, even just going, doing the exercise, like the whole thing just seems with ease. No.
And it's called Pilates Flow 1.5. So that's just
there you go.
But yeah. So how do you get to that point? So, it can't be about maintaining motivation, because willpower is a depletable resource. So even though I was really motivated at the start and I had those big goals, because my goal this year is to get my body back right, to overcome the back surgery and the gallbladder surgery and that, it didn't happen because I was forcing it and for the wrong reasons. And so then I did kind of go back to like, let's just have a routine. We have an episode on that. Once I got into that, that's when I started setting the SMART goals, where it's like, okay, if they do abs today, I'm not going to give up on it. If we do a plank today, I'm not going to, right? Like the arm stuff, so we could go a little bit lighter on, but like today we will fully do core day. Right. I mean, it seems like little small things, but that's what I had to do. I had too big a goal. So I created some SMART goals, and then that helped me with that dedication and the discipline part. And then it changed my negative talk into positive self-talk, because now at the end of Pilates, instead it's like, oh, that was so hard. Oh, you're so lame. Like, look at all the people here. There's pregnant women doing these things, right? Like they're like 2 days over their due date and they're sitting here doing these planks with all that extra weight. And so now instead, without even thinking about it or having to motivate myself for positive self-talk, it's now like, oh, wow, you did that. And this feels so good. And I can't wait to come back tomorrow. And this instructor made this so fun. And like,
that's so inspiring, Tracy. But plus I love the fact that you also sort of do okay, if they do abs today, then we're not going to give up. If this happens today, then I'm going to do this thing. Like, you set yourself up for success by creating these sort of pre-rules for yourself, right?
And if I wake up in the morning and the nerve in my back is bugging me, before I would have canceled class and paid the $10 for the late cancel, because I thought I was taking care of myself. And now it's, we're going to go and we're going to tell them our back is hurting us today and we're going to get the modifications, or we're going to go. And if our back starts to hurt us, like, we'll just pause, we'll do child, right? Because some is better than nothing. And so now I actually feel more ready for it. And so it's just one of those little things that if I continue to do this, like, I've already noticed my posture change, my core strength change, like just little things don't bug me anymore. And so it's kind of like, okay, well, what's next after Pilates, right? Like,
yeah, that is so great. And like I said, it's really inspiring, Tracy. I don't want to say I'm proud of you, because that just sounds patronizing.
I'm proud of me.
Okay, I'm proud of you. I just love it.
So, I mean, is there anything for you, you said you're better at it now. So are there any areas of your life where you would want to be more ready? Or do you actually feel like the stuff that you've gotten more ready at, or that your husband has helped you get more ready for, has opened up that freedom?
Well, it's weird, because I was really doing pretty well when we were still going into the office. My readiness was very much like, put out your clothes the night before, make sure your lunch is packed the night before, have all this stuff. My readiness for the day started the night before, right? But now I can, roll out of bed and turn on my computer if I need to. And yet I have new little rituals in the morning that I'm very much ready for. And so I do little things for success, like keep the notebook that I use for gratitude right where I sit in the morning. But no, this is something I do want to be ready for more things. And I want to be more intentional with that readiness. And so I feel like I'm going to have to listen to this episode a couple times.
I love that. I love that you're our number one fan. That's so interesting. You brought up our new work from home, because it has been 2 years now, right? And so for me, when it first started, I was very much aware of, how your environment and your routine can impact your day. And so I followed the same thing for months. And then that first winter hit, and then the isolation hit. And then, Tracy, who needed the support at the time, it no longer became, if you don't make your lunch, you don't eat lunch. Right? Like, now it just became, oh, there's an all staff at noon. You can just put your laptop in the kitchen and make your lunch then. Right. And so, or still just making like poor choices out of convenience of what's in my kitchen versus taking the time to cook. And so it's so important to look at how your environment is impacting your willpower, how it's impacting your readiness, how those small things, like you said, your morning routine and what to look forward to. But I don't know, one of the things that has inspired me that you've talked a lot about was, your perfect week. And
Yeah.
a huge theme of that was the freedom you felt and to do certain things and to do the things that brought you the most joy. And so that's what's inspired me to look at, okay, where am I not feeling ready? Where I'm not taking those movement future-based steps because of it, because I don't feel like I have the freedom so that I can get to that perfect week, right? Like,
Yeah.
So that when I ask myself, is this helping future Tracy? It's a resounding yes, not a no, nope.
I love it. I love it so much. And like I said, I really am going to listen to this because I do feel like in the moment, my brain is just going a million miles an hour. And it's really going to tie in well with what we talk about next time. But boy, if this episode spoke to your future self, please share it with a friend.
Or listen to it 3 times like Amy.
I tell you what, you have to re-listen to it. I do, because half the time I don't remember what I said, what I say. Right? Yeah. Anyways, give us some love on your preferred platform with a rate, review, and subscribe. You can reach out to us via Instagram and YouTube under The Brightly Podcast, or via email at brightlypodcast@gmail.com.
Well, and with that, we hope you have a bright and beautiful and very ready day.